Bacon, Beans, and Limousines. This is a video series, and I'm your host, Jacob Crummoody.
Guys, and I'm Bart Taylor. We're going to welcome you into the beautiful, lavish Will Rogers Theater inside the Will Rogers Memorial Museum.
Inside beautiful Claremore, Oklahoma.
Ah, yes. Thank you. Guys, what we're going to do is we're going to have a little video for you, a little fun up here. It's going to be like a little variety show here at Will Rogers Museum.
We're going to be doing this once a month, looking at a different aspect, a different area of Will Rogers' life, and exploring it in a little bit more detail. We have the audio podcast to do the same thing. This will be a little bit of a supplement to that, just going a little bit further.
And what are we doing this week, Jacob?
This week, we're looking at the Dog Iron Ranch.
Aha! Is that the same thing that I use every day on my wonderful Healthy Fit salads?
We put the Dog Iron Ranch on our salads here at the Will Rogers Memorial Museum. What we're looking at is basically the many different name changes over the years. The Dog Iron Ranch, the Will Rogers birthplace, the Rogers Ranch, all these different things, and kind of exploring what all of those meant, where they were in time, that sort of thing.
And what we're going to also do is kind of show you the few years that actually when Will ran the ranch and why it became the Dog Iron Ranch.
Absolutely. So we're going to show you a quick little video documentary short on that very topic. And we hope you'll join us once a month right here at Bacon, Beans, and Limousines.
Sounds good to me, Jacob. Well, let's look right over here and get this video started.
Today, the Will Rogers Birthplace Ranch sits atop a hill overlooking beautiful Oologah Lake. This house was the headquarters of Clem Rogers' sprawling ranch, located near Oologah in the Cooey district of the Cherokee Nation. The house was completed in 1875, nearly 4 years before the famous humorist was born. Will Rogers would spend his formative years on his father's ranch, which, at its height, was nearly 60,000 acres. On his father's ranch, Will Rogers cherished the wide-open spaces where he could ride his horses and ride them freely. It was said of Will Rogers that he loved to hunt coyotes and jackrabbits. He would never shoot them, but he loved to chase them on horseback. It required fearless riding, which appealed to the young Cherokee cowboy. For Will Rogers, time at the Rogers Ranch would not last forever. While young Will wanted to live the life of a cowboy, his father had other plans. He insisted that Will receive a good education and made sure he was enrolled in the finest schools in the area. Dreaming of a different sort of life, Will Rogers didn't fare well in school, and his father eventually enrolled him in Kemper Military Academy near Boonville, Missouri. After a few semesters at Kemper, 18-year-old Will Rogers would quit school for good, seeking work as a cowboy where he could find it.
He would end up working cattle in Texas, as well as driving cattle into Kansas for Frank Ewing. By the end of 1898, Will Rogers would return home to his father's ranch. Clem Rogers had an offer for him. He wouldn't make him go to school anymore if Will would take over management of the ranch. Why his father focused on business pursuits in Claremore. Will Rogers agreed, renaming it the Dog Iron Ranch after his cattle brand. Rogers had used the Dog Iron brand as early as 1890 when his father gave him a few stray doggies to establish his own herd. However, the existence of the Dog Iron Ranch was relatively short. By the time Will Rogers had returned home to the ranch, Indian territory was fundamentally changing. With the Dawes Acts, Curtis Acts, land that was once collectively owned by the Native American tribes was allotted directly to the individual citizens of the tribes. The Rogers Ranch, which was once nearly 60,000 acres, was reduced down to less than 150. While it was still his childhood home, it was not the ranch that Will Rogers remembered. In early 1902, Will Rogers would relinquish management of the ranch back to his father so Will could travel to South America. He was looking for wide open spaces he remembered growing up. The ranch only existed as the Dog Iron Ranch for only 3 short years. Today we call it the Will Rogers Birthplace Ranch. While it was always more of his father's operation, the Rogers Ranch, or the Dog Iron Ranch as it was briefly known, was still an important part of Will Rogers' life. It was on that land that Will Rogers established the strong foundation on which his career was built.